tell you that you are great people, but we have, if you look around the table, you say, oh, well, who are these young ones here? They didn't survive the Holocaust, but you know what? They are also survivors, and I'm going to tell you why. These are all children. I know them all really well. They're like my own personal children. These are children that were born from parents that came over from the Soviet Union. Then when they arrived here, and they will also tell their story, when they arrived here, they did not know that they were Jewish children. They have been doing, because you have planted the seeds for them, you have shown them, you can do it, you can come over, learn the language, get educated, you can become Yiddish, you can become Jewish, live your life like Jews. They are following these young, beautiful children, and Ina, she has gone in front of it. It's really true. They are following your model. Alex, he's going to tell you, he has two beautiful young children, a beautiful wife, Shomer Shabbos, kosher. Why is he able to do it? Because you set the model. You set it. You set the role model. And it's just my greatest honor to have both of you here. Both of you who have already done the challenge, you are the role models, and that these are our children. They are following your model. It's such an honor. It's such an honor. I feel so emotional about it. And my greatest honor, Rabbi Katzin, I'm going to introduce Rabbi Katzin. He's head of an organization, RAGE, Russian American Jewish Experience. He was dean at a school called Sinai Academy, where children came in. I'm sure they were not wearing yarmulkes. They did not have brisim. They did not even know that they were Jewish. Thousands of Russian children have graduated from there, and now they have families that are Jewish children, families that go to yeshiva, families that keep Shabbos. So it's such an honor, Rabbi Katzin, to have you over here. So I don't even know where to begin, because I think every person here should say who they are and what they represent. But I think, first and foremost, I would like to say that the reason this whole thing was put together, I really want to thank, I don't know where she is, Racheli Deutsch, who works for Ina. It was really her idea to bring Russian survivors. Racheli, where are you? Here she is. I'm so proud of you, Racheli. We did it, right? We planned and planned, but here we are with amazing Holocaust survivors together with our young Russian immigrant children who are following your model. And I think a perfect example, and I'm going to hand it over to you, is Ina Vernikov, who is, you're going to tell them more, but Ina is a child of Russian immigrants, correct? And Ina is now a councilwoman in New York City, part of the United States of America, representing our government. And she fights for our rights. And it is such an honor that when Racheli put this together, she said the one person we have to have there is we have to have Councilwoman Ina there to speak. Wow. And I said, yes, yeah, we really do. And to partner, to have Rabbi Katzin here, where Ina is going to tell her story about how this came together. So Ina, I'm now...
Thank you so much. That was a very glorious introduction, and the expectations were set so high.
They're worth it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zethim, for having us all here. I also would like to thank Racheli. I don't know why she's disappearing. Racheli, you want to come join us? But I really like to thank her for thinking about having this event and helping Dr. Zethim put it together. I'm also very humbled and honored to stand in front of you, all of you, especially the Holocaust survivors and the Ragers. I am, like Dr. Zethim mentioned, the council member for the 48th Council District here in Brooklyn. I represent Manhattan Beach, Brighton Beach, Sheepshead Bay, and some areas in Midwood and Gravesend. I am a child of refugees, Jewish refugees who came from the Ukraine. We came here when I was 12 years old, so I was a child. And also my grandfather's family, about 8 of his siblings were all murdered in the Holocaust. So I think this couldn't be more appropriate, especially with what's happening now in the Ukraine. And when this invasion started a couple months ago, this was very disturbing for me to watch, for my family, and for my friends who are still in the Ukraine. I actually went to a Jewish school in Ukraine. I've never been to public school, so from second grade in Ukraine, I went to a Jewish school, and I have classmates who are still in Chernovitz. That's the town where I'm from, the town of Chernovitz. It's in western Ukraine. I'm sure some of you are familiar. It's about 40 kilometers from Romania, so thank God it's not being bombed right now. They're okay, they're fine. But I'm in touch with some of my classmates. One of my classmates from my Jewish school is actually a director of Jewish life in Ukraine, and I've been in touch with him since the invasion began, almost every day. They've actually taken in close to 160,000 refugees, I believe, and there's less residents in the town. It's a relatively small town in the Ukraine. So it's just been so horrifying to watch what's happening from the beginning. And I think in the recent weeks, it's kind of slowed down for us here. We had this news cycle. It was in the news almost every day. Everybody was very, very involved, doing everything they can, putting in a lot of effort, sending supplies, donating money. And I think now it's kind of slowed down because you know how the news cycle goes. People are focusing on something else. So I think it's very important to keep doing what we can to support Ukraine. We've actually done a lot at our office. We've been very involved from the very beginning. We've helped Hatala send a plane full of supplies, medical supplies and food down there. I've sent a letter to Senator Schumer to encourage him to accept refugees. We're involved with the local communities here. We talk to attorneys. We're cooperating with attorneys to make sure that people who come here get status, they get papers. There've been certain efforts in terms of what kind of relief there is. They can now apply for parole through humanitarian parole if they want to come here from Ukraine. If refugees are already here, they can apply for temporary protection status, so they're not deported for about 18 months. So I know that, I can't imagine what it's like for all of you to watch what's happening, and I'm sure that it brings, and I know that you'll talk about it, and you'll discuss it with us and with the Ragers, but I just can't imagine what it's like for you to watch what's happening down there, and I can't imagine what kind of memories it brings up for all of you who survived horrifying times. And for me, what's really devastating to see is, yes, the United States is supplying Ukraine with arms, and we're doing what we can militarily to support them, but what's been so important since the Holocaust is we've been saying never again. We'll never allow such an atrocity to take place in the world. And what we're seeing is, I don't know if we can call it a genocide, but it's definitely murder of innocent civilians, and it's definitely war crimes that are being committed by someone I consider a terrorist and a tyrant and a war criminal. And it's just disturbing to see that, if you think about it, nobody's really stopping him. We have the European Union, we have the United States of America, and yes, we're sending aid, but no one has stopped him. He is continuing his aggression against a country that is trying to be independent. They're trying to be a democracy. And as someone who's coming from the Soviet Union, and I know many of you come from the former Soviet Union, we understand what it's like to live under communism, even if we didn't live under communism or we weren't, born into it. Our families went through communism, so we're all very familiar what that's like. And we lived under the Soviet Union, so we understand that, we don't want to be a part of that. Ukraine wants to be sovereign, it wants to be independent, it wants to be a country of freedom. They want to be more like America and less like the Soviet Union, where they have freedom of speech and freedom of religion and economic opportunities. And Ukraine has been, from what I understand and from what I've been learning and hearing from my friends who live there, they've actually been pretty satisfied in the last couple of years with what Ukraine has been doing. They've been feeling free. They've been living a free life. They've been having opportunities, the kinds they didn't have under Soviet rule. And so I'm not gonna speak much longer. I'm gonna give it over to Raheli to make some remarks. But I know that this will be a great conversation, and I'm here for all of you to support you all in any way that I can. And I guess if you have any questions, I'm free to take them.
Well, yes, when I see it on the television, all the bombings every day, and I went through that because during the war I was in Vienna in a family camp with my 3 siblings and myself and my mother, and my father was in slave labor camp. And I remember vividly that we lived in a school. I don't know, Faye, your mother was also in one of these lockers?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
They were in the school in Vienna.
yeah, me too.
I actually went to go see
District.
it.
Yes, she
Yeah.
was in the same camp.
My mother
And
was
I
together.
remember so vividly that the sirens came and there was no time, and I was a little girl at the time, and my shoes were in the room, and I wanted to go run back and get my shoes, and my mother didn't let me. She said, no, there's no time for shoes, we gotta go to the bunkers. And sure enough, that day, we were bombed out. When we came back, the building was leveled with bombs, and my shoes was in the bomb, and it was already like October or November. It was pretty chilly, and my mother didn't know what to do, and she went from one garbage can to the next, because it wasn't like over here. You go to a garbage can, and you find all sorts of wonderful things, and there it wasn't like that. So until she found papers and rags that she wrapped it around my feet, and she realized that she has no rope. So she went and took the rag, one of the rags, and tore it out, very thin, and that was the makeshift that she tied it around with my feet. And then she didn't know what to do with me, so she was working outdoors and digging the cables to put in cables outdoors. And then this Austrian woman comes over to her and she says, tell me, what is this child doing here without shoes and in this cold weather? And my mother told her, and she says, come with me. And she took me to the building where she lived, only about a block or 2 away, and she put me next to this cast iron oven. That's what they heated it with. And she gave me to eat, and in the afternoon she gave me an apple, and I'm holding it and holding the apple. And she says, my child, why don't you eat this apple? And I says, I cannot possibly swallow this apple because I have 3 brothers at home, and they are also so hungry. We have to cut this apple in 4 when I get home. We have to share it. And then, okay, so my mother came for me at the end of the day, and then we were by the door, and she says to my mother, hold, don't go, wait. And she runs to the back, and she gets a pair of shoes. I still see it in front of me, like a gray high top with laces in, and she gave me the shoes. And people ask me today, why did you take her number, her name, and this, that you could have, thank her later on? I said, we were in such Torres Gaules, we didn't know what tomorrow is going to bring, that I'm going to take her address. I'm just, So this is one of the vivid stories that I remember. And there were some kind Germans, you couldn't put them in one category, like being, even she saw us with the Jewish star, that she knew that we are Jews and what my mother is doing, and she was pretty kind to us.
I was thinking maybe it would be a very nice idea, but if he's going to start bringing out the food, that maybe we could have an opportunity that each person could just say who they are and where they're from for a moment. I think that would be really important. Do you want Racheli to speak first?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, Racheli, so maybe come. Okay, so I don't know how many, will you introduce her? Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay, I just have a short speech prepared, a little bit just about the month and about today. I don't know if everybody knows, but it's Rav Shaya first year site. So I think it's just a very important day. I am Rochelle Bechtower.
Loud and clear. Enunciate. Enunciate.
Can I go in the middle? Can I go in the middle? Okay. I'm gonna go in the middle. Okay. Everybody good?
Fully ignored by anybody else, that's it.
No worries. Okay, my name is Rochelle Bechtower, Rafeli. I am the Director of Advocacy Services for Councilmember Ina Bernikov. Okay, I'd like to thank Dr. Fay for hosting so generously and graciously. I'm just going to read what I prepared. So it's my honor to be in a room filled with such amazing women who have endured so much on whatever journey they have been through, whether if it's rediscovering their Judaism or rebuilding their lives after the Holocaust. Today is an extremely auspicious day. On the Hebrew calendar, it is the 3rd of Iyar, the yahrzeit of Rav Yeshaya Kirsterer. He was known to be a tremendous Baal Chesed and Tzedakah. He was known as the Miracle Rabbi due to his supernatural intervention. People would travel from all over to get his blessings, his brachos, for whatever reason they needed, whether it be for food, parnasa, for health of their children, etc. Incredibly, on his deathbed, Rabbi Shaila called over his family and told them that there will be a large funeral here, and many people will come from all the surrounding towns and villages. Please prepare several large pots of food so that the people coming to my funeral should not go hungry. This was what the tzaddik was worried about as he prepared to meet his maker. He was worried about giving food to the masses, and he was known to go out himself and give food to, I guess all his congregants and the people coming from all over, which I'm sure he would have had people to do so. To this day, people travel to his kever, his burial place, to request from Hashem miracles on his behalf in his merit. It's no coincidence that Rabbi Shaila was nifter during the month of Iyar, which is the month of healing. I believe, and I study this each month, where each month of the Jewish calendar brings forth a different, midah, things to learn from, things that you can pull forth. And this past week was Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Iyar is known as the month of healing. Kabbalists explain that Iyar, Aleph, Yud, Yud, Reish, is an acronym for Ani Hashem Refuach, I am God, your healer. Through this connection to healing, we can hopefully realize that healing is within each of us. So this is not just, healing from being sick. It's healing from emotions, healing from troubles, healing from your past, healing from anything. And it's important to bring forth these letters for the month of Iyar to heal yourself. And through this connection to healing, we can hopefully realize that healing is within each of us. Just as Rav Shaila was able to merit the miracle of healing for people, so can we pull in the healing at the front of the month to heal ourselves. Our mental health, our past pain, it's the month of endurance. Just a small, everybody still hear me?
Yeah.
Just a small personal note, as I'm sure some of you know, my father, Chaim Deitch, has spoken previously. He is actually a child of Holocaust survivors. Whenever I meet people, they're like, wait, your grandparents were Holocaust survivors? Yes, my grandparents were Holocaust survivors, not my great-grandparents. And Rav Shaila was nifter in the year 1925. He was very, very, very close with actually my namesake. I have two names, Rachel, and my second name, which most people don't know, is Lima. Rachel actually was a family member that did not survive the Holocaust, unfortunately, and so I do feel that strong connection to the Holocaust and the pain that, our brothers and sisters have been through, especially my own family. And then Lima was actually my father's grandmother. My grandfather, her child, went through the camps, 3 different concentration camps. And he came out and he built a beautiful family with 4 children. And obviously, oh, sorry, I get so emotional.
That your father and my mother were both in that housing. Your grandfather and my mother were in that housing together. Yeah. Can you imagine?
So I believe that Rav Shaila had a very strong connection to my grandmother, Lima, my great-grandmother, and it was by her parents' wedding that he was I guess, what is it? Is that a tradition, right? Under the chuppah, and he gave a bracha where he was making believe he was like throwing pekalach, he was throwing like the bags that you would throw by an ofra, and he was saying, he was giving brachos, he was giving blessings, saying that your children and your grandchildren will be askanim, and they're going to help the community, and they're going to help people, and they're going to be there for people. And I truly believe that my grandfather was able to survive because of those brachos that were given by Rav Shaila. So I cannot make a speech today without, involving Rav Shaila because his memory should be a blessing. And it is also customary in my family that we light a candle, which I did today. And I just hope that this can help anybody who needed it, who needs to hear it, about the month of Iyar and the healing that, you can bring forth. You have an entire month to bring out the strength of the month to yourself. Anything that you want to work on, anything that you feel that maybe you left behind in the previous months, anything you want to work on yourself, and it should be a good month of mazel, bracha, tzlacha, parnasa, and all good.
All right, so I was thinking that it would be really nice, if you don't mind, while we're eating, because it's kind of informal, if while we're eating, we could go around the table and people could just say what their name is and where they're from, and maybe just a little bit about yourself. Can we do that? That would be lovely.
Sure.
All right, so where can we start? Can we start over there, next to Lillian? Yeah, but talk very loud so we can hear you.
Oh, you have one here.
Yeah.
My name is Leah Brach.
Welcome, Leila.
I was born in Kharkov.
Are you born in Kharkov? We have at least, we have 3 people from Kharkov.
Very sad.
Who are the 3 people? You have 3 people from the same town as you.
Well,
So raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, look around you. They are also from the town.
I was born in 1941, so we ran away from the Nazi in Kyrgyzstan. My father went to the war, and my mother and the kids ran away from the Nazis. And now it's very sad, so sad. I'm so upset. What's going on with my city? It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Nobody can stop it. Shame. We have to pray a lot.
Yeah, so Rabbi Katzin is working very closely now with the Jews in Ukraine. So maybe it would be the perfect time, Rabbi Katzin, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
I'm sorry.
yes, please.
We used to talk to the sometimes Russian radio.
I did it today also.
Really? Oh,
I just did.
I don't listen too much.
But you speak Russian, right?
Huh?
You speak Russian.
Yes.
So you grew up in the Soviet Union.
Oh,
You
yeah.
were raised in the Soviet
Unfortunately.
Me too. So могли не подумать.
So I
Wow,
understand.
what a surprise.
I understand what you went through,
Well, I know what you went through.
what my family went through.
Yes.
I was fighting with KGB, the same.
The same.
Not the same, but
So we have such amazing heroes, Dr. P. here. So
they did not let me go. 9 years I was
refusing.
refusing.
When? Which year? So when did you leave?
They let me, I applied 1979.
Like me, we
They
applied the
let me
same day.
go 1987, 9 years, they did not
Okay.
let me go.
We applied the same time. Dr. Faye,
I was fighting, I
you ever
was
refused?
against the system, against the, from government, and against, I was fighting. Did you want to go in jail, the same.
So first of all, it's such an honor to be here with Dr. Faye, who's really leading the way, and Ina, who's a leader in our community.
I'm so happy.
So we're so happy to be here.
And a proud
I wish you
rager.
a
And
big,
proud
big success.
ranger, but
Right?
again,
Miss that?
it's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. And if anything, I can say that, first of all, I do share your pain. And from the day of the war,
Oh,
I am in pain and I feel I need therapy. I cannot continue living like nothing happening. I cannot, because I do feel your pain. However, I think that what we need to do is we need to turn this pain into something positive. So yes, we try to help as many people as we can. Dr. Fay is created a shalom support line to support the victims or people who, Jews, mainly Jews in Ukraine, to provide the support.
What we started, you'll like to hear it, we have an organization called Shalom Ukraine, for the Jews in Ukraine. Every day, Rabbi Katzin gives a Torah class in Ukraine, and it has thousands of followers, thousands of people who are in Ukraine who are listening to this Torah class. When we found out that while they're listening to this Torah class, these people are going through terrible sadness, their trauma, it's terrible trauma. One of the girls here that has a brother, she'll tell you the story, that could not get out of Ukraine. So this Torah class we brought on, we found a firm Russian-speaking mental health person. Her name is Marina Davidoff, and she is on the program for them to express that whoever needs this kind of help, whoever needs support, we're available for you for support in trauma. So not only is Rabbi Katzin teaching a Torah class, but we are offering people the opportunity to be able to get mental health support because of the work that we're trying to do with Ukraine. We're trying.
So sad,
So, but what I wanted to add, first I want to thank Dr. Fay for actually initiating this idea. It's totally Dr. Fay's idea. What can we do? So we asked, what can we do? So Dr. Fay has many Russian-speaking therapists, and she's coordinating a whole group of people, and I hope this program will continue growing. But I want to say, even though I'm in pain from what Russians did, or Russians do to Ukrainians, so Jews, one of my very close friends, Dr. Fay knows Rabbi Moshe Asban, actually buried a member of his own shul.
my friend's son-in-law.
Say it again, what?
My friend's son-in-law.
Rabbi Asman, you mean? Rabbi Asman. So he buried a Jewish member, young person of his Kehillah, who was unfortunately tortured and executed in Bucha. However, as much as this pain, I have even greater pain. You know here what the greater pain? When I see some of my Russian friends or some of my French friends that say, let the Russians kill these Ukrainians. Well, and some people say, listen, who killed us? Who was killing us? Ukrainians were killing us. They were killing us, so why let's Russian kill them? And some others say, I don't know who's right. Russians or Ukrainians are right. So my answer to them usually, and this is what I want to tell you, why you all sitting here inspire me so much and give me so much hope. You give me a lot of strength. For me, that to be here is such a therapeutic and healing experience. I want to thank you for allowing me to be here and even express it. I say sometimes to them, in war with a Nazi or terrorist, there are two dangers, a small danger and a big danger. A small danger is chas v'sholom, if a Nazi can kill a Jew. It's a small danger. Why it's a small danger? Because even though he kills your body, but you're a victim who died on Kiddush Hashem, and in eternity, in Nitzkias, you're victorious. And he's a murderer. And he's a shameful murderer. But even in the process of fighting the Nazis or terrorists, we become like them. They committed genocide, they killed children, and they generalized and said, every Jew is bad, let's kill all the Jews. And now, when I asked Rabbi Asman, I said, Rabbi Asman, and his rabbis asked the same question, as how can you explain that Russian soldiers commit this atrocity? And they both said to me, because Russian propaganda is like Nazi propaganda, dehumanizing people. In other words, they call, every Ukrainian is a Nazi. Oh, this is a child of a Nazi, this is a wife of a Nazi. So that creates a mindset of genocide.
Let's create milchoma.
Well, but that's created genocide. And I think the biggest thing that we can do is not to be like them. And to remain positive, merciful, honored, dignified human beings. And what you went through, and I look at you, and I see your faces, And I know your lives. And I know that Baruch Hashem, you accomplished so much. You were able to rebuild your lives. So that inspires me that I think that our response can be either, when we see these atrocities that you went through, it is either we become so angry we want to do it to them. And now we want to take revenge. But then we lose. Or we become so sensitive that we value life even more. And we value kindness even more. And we will understand that when others suffer our pain, we will understand this pain. And that's why we have a mitzvah in the Torah. Ve'ahavta et hager kegerim ha'item. I remember Pavel Cohen spoke at my shul, and he said, this is the only mitzvah that we took from Mitzrayim, not from Yetzias Mitzrayim. We took it from the suffering and darkness of Egypt. We take the sensitivity, understanding the pain of others, and helping them. So I think that what you did with your lives inspires us to elevate yourself at this moment. So I want to thank you all.
Thank you.
So maybe let's continue around.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell us who
Yeah,
you
my
are.
name is Brian Einhorn. I was 12 and a half years old when I came to Auschwitz, and I was holding my grandmother was 66, my mother was 36, and Mengele was took selections right and left, and I was walking with them, and he came and ran after me and grabbed me to come to the right. I was crying, I didn't know what was going on, and it was just, there's no word in the dictionary you can explain this word, how they treated us. I don't think that dogs and cats were treated as we was treated. So we came to Auschwitz and I became an orphan overnight. And then in Auschwitz I was 6 weeks, it was like 6 years to be in Auschwitz. And now I want to get it through that the new generation should know about the Holocaust and they should appreciate what they have now, because it was so deprived of any human dignity. And then we have to speak up because there's so many deniers also that wasn't true. How can it not be true that Germany gives money for nothing for us? Because it wasn't true, it was true. Everything was true, and every day when I wake up, I just sit myself, it's like you cannot get rid of this scenery when we came to Auschwitz. Everything was burning, And I wish that the new generation should appreciate everything. And it was peace on the world already, because it's hard. I cannot describe all the details because it would take a very long time. And we arrived in the wagons and we cry, everybody was so, they give away the children because the people who didn't have the children, they were going to the right side. People didn't realize. My aunt was 23 years old with a boy of 3, and my 6 uncles, and nothing is left of my family. I didn't have a skier to know them because Europe wasn't like the horse and buggy, there was no cars, and then I was still very young. And it's very painful, but I try to teach the people that they should appreciate everything that they have. And thank Hashem for what we have. It was hell on earth. It didn't worse than hell on earth that we went through.
Thank you so much for being here.
My name is Zahava Unger. I was 13 years old when I arrived to Auschwitz. By then I lost my father already 2 years earlier. Was taken to a labor camp in Ukraine and killed over there. And my mother without children, because children, we were refugees already when we were. And so we were lacking food and every time were not easy. By the time we came to Auschwitz, I was separated from everybody except one sister who was older than me. And we were there a couple of months together with daily selections and things like that. And I see the Yad Hashem in every selection that I survived. I can't understand it, I cannot explain it, but I can just say Yad Hashem. Because it's impossible to survive. So many things going against me, but I'm here. But, okay, so I was separated then with my sisters, I was 13, and I survived. And I was saved twice by German Nazis, real German Nazis. It's like unbelievable, but it's true. At one point, a German soldier locked me in a cellar for a whole day. At night, she left me out, and it turned out that everybody was my age was taken away, and I survived. So it's just one example that in the worst can be also good people. And I survived. I went to Israel straight a year later, and met up with one brother who survived. They didn't know he was alive. And then in Israel I did many things.
How many children do you have?
6 can I know.
Seminary with her
Grandchildren, can I know I have 30? I have great-grandchildren. I would be shocked if I tell you the number. And I have next generation already also.
Great-grandchildren.
Next generation. I have 5 generations. Became 5 generations. And everybody Shomer Shabbat. Everybody goes on the right path. Baruch Hashem. So I have a lot to be thankful for.
It's an honor to have you here. Thank you. Okay, tell us who you are.
Well, I'm very unique here. I was born in Poland, so I'm a Polish.
Okay.
My mother was also born in Poland.
Oh, okay, I'm so happy to be here.
Where were you born?
Which was the Bielsk. Near Przemyśl, that's all I know.
Krynica.
I don't know that.
That was
I was,
like here, Saratoga, was a very
A resort area.
resort area.
I have no memory.
Not far from Krakow, my father is from Krakow.
We were 6 girls. I'm the youngest, and I was born in 39, and in 41 we escaped to Siberia, which was no picnic. My father died there. He didn't want to eat trace. My mother stayed with 6 girls, and 2 sisters died there. So she was left with 4 girls. Till 1945, when we went to Germany. I don't remember much. And they didn't talk, my mother didn't talk. I get information from people.
Okay, I think maybe it would be a good idea, let's do all the survivors first, and then we'll move over to to the younger generation. So we're coming back around, next to Lillian Feintuch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
tell
name
us,
is Lillian
please.
Feintuch,
Yes.
and I come from Balmazui Varosh, the same town my Faith's parents. And my father was very, very good friend with your grandfather, Mr. Stomble.
Yeah.
He was a watchmaker, and they were both big Talmud Chochems. And we were friends. My parents were friends with your parents. And actually, I remember them. And we were taken to the ghetto. And I remember vividly how my mother, the first thing she packed was a box of candles. And every week, that one candle, she used to cut it in 4, and she would sing the Lech every Friday night. And at the end, when we were liberated, we were hiding at the end, and she said, in Yiddish, children, look what a big miracle. The box of candle lasted for us to the last of our liberation. And so this was also another miracle that I survived, that they took 4 or more children had to come down in the brick factory. Your mother was there too. And we went with the wagons to Auschwitz, and we stood there for 2 days, and we did not know what happened at the time. But we found out that the tracks were bombed, and we couldn't go through. And these wagons were full with children, 4 or more. There were people who had 12 children. Your parents also had. And that's how we went back to Vienna. And that's how we survived. Otherwise, at Auschwitz, we would have gone, all these children we would have been perished, and that was like a big miracle. And also, there was another miracle that when we were on the death march, my mother got sick and she took off her knapsack and sat down, and my younger brother was also a very young boy, like maybe 7 at the time. I have 3 brothers. And she says, Mommy, look, we're all alone. And my mother could only whisper, soon, my child, soon we're gonna go. But she could not. And my oldest brother was like 12 years old, and he went, there was farmers, and he went and he said to the farmer that maybe we could rest up because my mother is sick, and he was very nice. He says, come. So we went into the stable. He put down fresh straws in the corner, and we laid down, and we were able to sleep with the horses, with the cows in the same stable. And I said to myself, oh, I'm at least in a 4-star hotel now. Look how comfortable this is. It's so wonderful. And then the next day, miraculously, my mother got well, and we found another family that was, the father was infested with pus because he was working with murky water. And I was incarcerated for a year. I was a little girl with blonde hair. And I walked away like a half a block, and I saw these gorgeous flowers and bushes and greenery, and I didn't see this for over a year. And I went over there, and I'm admiring, looking, and look, I kept looking up, and all of a sudden I look up, and I see this Nazi running. Oh, and I said, Hashem, this is the end of us. This is it. And then I see he doesn't even run to the adults, he's coming to me. And he's just standing and standing. I said, why don't you take out that gun and get it over with? I'm so scared, just shoot me already. And then instead of shooting me, he starts to cry. And he said, from the far, I swear that you were my daughter. You look exactly like my daughter. I was a little girl, like 5, 6 years old, with long blonde hair. Very blonde hair, and I'm sorry that I didn't bring the picture to show you at the time, 5 months before I was incarcerated. And then he said, and then he went over to the adults and he said, what are you doing here? And they told him what happened. We're gonna go right away after the groups. No, don't go there, he said, because those groups will be killed and it's gonna be a terrible thing. Take off your Jewish stars and tell them that you are Hungarian refugees, and when they ask you, what are you doing? Why? He says, just say that the Russians are 10 kilometers from us now, and we are so scared that we had to run away from the Russians. So he said, that's what you should do, and don't go that way, go the opposite. He showed the highest mountain, that's where we should go, that's where we're gonna be safe, because the war will be over soon. So, and we found an old lady, she was pretty kind, she gave us the stable to stay in the stable, and she would have given us food, but her daughter, a big anti-Semitic, who was very, very scared of the bombs from Vienna, she came there, safe haven in the mountains, and she didn't let her mother, because she suspected that we're not Hungarian, we are Jewish. And then in the morning, they would put in these big wooden plank for the pigs, and we used to run before the pigs were out to steal the potatoes, the little potatoes they were in there. And then that's where we became liberated.
Wow, what a story. Wow. Okay. It's always, I could listen to you for hours, always.
This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, but you're so eloquent, and it's just, to listen to all of you, I'm so grateful, it's unbelievable. We're going.
We're leaving in
Yes,
10 minutes.
go ahead, well, we'll push it off.
We'll have the car service here.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for being here.
I think that there were three miracles that I'm alive today. The first one was, as we arrived to Auschwitz, Birkenau, they started separating women and men, young women with children, older people, and the young able bodies. Dr. Mengele was the one who did the selection. He was a doctor, and he knew who was healthy enough to be able to work for the Nazis. They selected me. I went with my mother to the left. The left meant that they are going to be killed, burned in the crematorium. When he pointed his thumb to the right, those were the young, able bodies who would be able to work. As I went with my mother, my two sisters and a sister-in-law were selected to go to the right. After a few minutes, my mother asked me, where are those, my two sisters and sister-in-law? And I said, they went to the other side. We will soon meet each other. She let go of my hand and said, go and run after them. And I said, go run after them. I ran after them. It was the last time I saw my mother. Dr. Mengele was blinded because nobody from the left crossed over to the right. So this was one of the miracles that Hashem performed, that I am alive. Yeah. After a few weeks, as we arrived, the able bodies, although I was young, I was well built, tall and blonde. They tattooed our arms with the numbers, disregarding the names, and they sent us to work. My sisters and I were assigned to work at the railroad station, where all the luggages from the arrivals, the thousands and thousands of people who arrived there, were put. And we started to select. There were different bins and baskets for different items. The silver, like menorahs, candelabras, they put in one place. Candelabras and all. Shoes and clothes were put in the other. The Germans were suspicious that the women did not have any jewelry on them. They asked us to rip open shoulder pads, cufflinks, hems of coats. As a matter of fact, my mother never. Before we went into the ghetto, also sewed in some of her jewelry in shoulder pads and cufflinks. She said, Kinderlach, this we are going to use only for this purpose of survival. And I had to work and look for those jewelry that were hidden in the Jews. I'm going to make this whole story short. The second time that Hashem saved my life was when we were the last ones to leave Auschwitz on January the 18th, 1945. There were thousands of us marching from Auschwitz.
It's my aunt. My aunt got Come sit.
On the 18th, 1945, I was one of the thousands who was marching out of Auschwitz in a cotton dress, wooden clocks, no food, no drinks, marching day and night. Those who could not walk anymore and just wanted to rest, and they sat down on the snowy, wet road, were shot immediately. The roads, the gutters were full with young, dead women. I said to my sister that I cannot go anymore. I am too tired. They knew what's going to happen to me. So they held me under my arm and dragged me the rest of the way till we arrived in Ravensbrück, another horrible death camp. And we arrived late at night. We just collapsed on the cold, wet floor. When I woke up in the morning, there were dead bodies all around me. Go and survive that. It wasn't the end. From there, they still were able to ship us to different camps. The next one was, okay, right now the name doesn't come to me. We were put in 2 camps. The hunger was so great, they didn't give us to eat anything. One night, I snuck out from the barracks to look for some food in the garbage cans. Any discarded food from the kitchen. Potato peels, anything. A guard saw me and he came over and he asked what I am doing here out on the camp. I said, I'm so hungry. I just want some food from the garbage cans. He beat me so badly. I fell to the ground, of course, with the pain. After I came to myself, I crawled back to the barracks with my hand and foot. Again, I'm going to make it short. By the time we were liberated, on May the 2nd, 1945, we were skin and bone. We walked like zombies, like dead people. But with Hashem's help, we were liberated and we survived. And I keep asking time and again, Ribono Shel Olam, where were all those people, the billions of people that let this happen? I even asked, where was the President of the United States? He knew more or less what was going on. Where was the Pope? That he allowed that to happen.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm alive.
I'm so
Thank
grateful.
you.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Hashem.
Thank you. So we have one, it's my greatest honor, Mrs. Spitzer
Yeah.
is a very close friend of our family. Her husband was like a father to my husband. So I feel very, very closely connected. And Mrs. Spitzer's daughter, Rebbetzin Reisman, is my every morning chavrusa. We're together at 7:15, 7:30 every single morning. Mrs. Spitzer, tell us. I don't even
Well, I
know.
was a very young child. We escaped to Russia,
They were in Siberia.
Siberia. We went through all the hardships, but not compared to what those people went through. We went through a lot.
Yeah.
Hunger, cold, all this, but not
How many children were you?
with 3 young kids. And somehow,
I can tell you one thing,
Tell us.
Mommy.
yeah,
I wish I had the pictures.
yeah.
My mother was born into a very wealthy family.
Yeah.
Credits, they had hotels, they had
We had
businesses.
some jewelry, I think they hid some jewelry in the clothing and they bribed people with the jewelry, that's how we survived, you know?
Yeah.
Here and there, that's only,
My grandfather was once very, very sick. A doctor didn't want to treat him because he was a Jew.
yeah.
They gave him some jewelry,
Yeah.
and they once gave jewelry for a piece of bread. But what ultimately happened is, when the Soviets released them from Siberia, they went to Samarkand.
Yeah.
And in Samarkand,
What is that? What is
It's
Samarkand?
Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan, they were in Uzbekistan, and they were penniless refugees at that time. And my
Right,
grandparents,
right, Mrs. Horowitz. Mrs. Horowitz?
yeah,
Just wait 1 minute. Let me just finish this. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
my grandparents had 3 beautiful daughters. I have a picture before the war, starched bows, beautifully dressed.
Each one had her own nanny.
Yeah, they were so wealthy that each child had their own nanny.
Pence was the coolest, was like a Saratoga, was very.
What was the family name?
Herbs. But,
Yeah.
and I want to let my mother take over, but in Uzbekistan, they didn't have food for the children. So what my grandparents did is they took my mother and 2 sisters and put them in a kinderheim.
Yeah, when a kid,
They put them in an orphanage.
at least there we had some food,
They had food.
yeah,
And I have a picture of my mother
yeah.
with her teachers and the other children, mostly with shaven heads because of lice, in the kinderheim. And that's, so from wealth, they went to abject poverty,
Right.
and the parents had to give them away and put them in a home for children so that they could have food.
And where were they liberated? Like what happened?
No, then slowly, at the end of the war, you know, people were able to go back to Poland. We came back to Poland, and there was nothing there for us. We were afraid to go to the where we used to live because that the Polacs were very jealous when he came back, and they would take back the property. So we didn't want to go.
So let me tell you a story like that. My mother and her family slept on the floors in Sarah Schneer's Beis Yaakov in Krakow. They huddled in Krakow. They were afraid to go back to their town because their neighbors would kill them. My father-in-law went back to his house and he knocked on the door. An orphaned boy, he had lost his parents, his 10 nieces and everyone. He knocked on the door of his own house and somebody was living there and said, "If you ever cross this threshold again, I'm going to shoot you." So my grandmother was a young, wealthy woman. She had lost a beautiful big home like this one.
Yeah.
And then
We never went back.
they never went back. But she tried to go back once. And she was walking down the street. And there was another wealthy mansion over there. And a person opened the window and said, "Ha, you remember Itzik Schwartz? Well, I am Itzik Schwartz now." And slammed the window. My grandmother was so scared. She didn't go to her own house. She didn't dare to go to her house. She ran back to the train. And they went back to the school where they, eventually they went to Paris. And then they came to the United States. Right. So they lost everything, but Baruch Hashem,
Yeah.
they remained alive. Whoever is here had so many miracles and remained alive.
Otherwise, we were not here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a miracle, it's a
Because this is my miracles. They're the only one.
There's no miracles there.
So do we have time
Another 5
to
minutes
listen to the
about-
young children, to the
I have
youngsters?
cars waiting and hopefully they will not leave, that's where.
Good,
where we're at.
good, I hope not.
I just want to tell that my assistant, Ruchi.
Yeah.
We work at Nachas, and we work all day with all these lovely ladies. And I would not be able to do any of this without her. She is become their grandchild. I'm their child, she's their grandchild. And all the ladies can testify how much work she puts in a day to make sure that everything goes smoothly.
Okay, so, do you want to tell us, Jessica, tell us who you
Sure,
are?
I'm gonna also be quick, 'cause I know you have cars waiting. My name is Jessica Monica. Thank you, everybody, for organizing this. Your stories are amazing. Your inspiration and what's like so touching here is that every single person saw like the hand of Hashem, and that you guys are like.
Jessica is actually in medical school now.
Well, I'm in residency. I'm doing psychiatry, but my parents came from the Soviet Union a little before I was born. My mom's family is from Belarus, and there the Holocaust was very different. Like they didn't go through the camps. Like most of the people were just shot in one day. Like there were these mass shootings, so they didn't have the same experiences. I know that my mom's grandma and my mom's mom. They in 1942, I know they escaped to Perm, somewhere in the east, and that's how they survived. But other people in the town were probably massacred. But I'm so grateful to be here amongst all of you and your all inspirations. When I could talk more, but I think everybody else wants to go. So before you guys have to go.
Oh, you're gonna be a very great doctor because you really connect to people and care about people and appreciate people. So we wish you tremendous success.
Thank you so much.
Carrying that.
Okay, tell us who you are, stand up, tell us. This one is very interesting, get ready.
Hi, my name is Tatiana. I was born and raised actually in Ukraine. And my brother was before the war raised in Ukraine. So I would actually confirm what Ina said, that Ukraine was gradually going to a better place. And what Russia wants to do is terrible. No one wants. Both parents lived under communist Russia, and no one wants to.
Now we clear it for the ladies.
Yeah, nobody wants to repeat that lifestyle. Let's put it nicely. Even I remember as a child, I was born in Dnipropetrovsk and grew up in Dnipropetrovsk, so basically it's southwestern of Ukraine. During World War II was a lot of battles, so I remember first grade we had instructions. If you find something very interesting, looks like cool gun, don't touch. And unfortunately, some kids were either killed or lost extremities because no one knows, where all these weapons also are. For me, like what happened in February 24th, I'm like, how in the world it could happen again? It's like we have so much pain. We left so many people, even more than half a century, even now 70-something years, we still feel that pain after war. And like, who in the right mind would repeat that? But I guess.
Tatiana, maybe you could share with them our most recent story about
Yeah,
your
my brother, so I came here in 2005. My brother left back in Ukraine, and he was part of Jewish community in Dnipro, then in Kiev. In Kiev, he was part of the Jewish community who actually were escaping Donetsk region, who were refugees. They moved to Kiev, rebuilt community, trying the best, and now again they had to run. So when the war started, he was in Kiev, in center of Podol, and I remember that night, I couldn't believe it happened. I was trying to reach my brother and I couldn't until I reached his yet and confirmed the Russia attack. He said, don't worry, I'm gonna go to a safer place. It's like Anativka. It's like a few kilometers from Kiev. It's like a smaller town.
He was in
It's right
Ukraine.
near
He was
Your brother
in Kiev, in Podol.
Right near Bucha. He was
And
right near
yeah,
the
it's like
mountain.
2 kilometers from Bucha. So, but I didn't know that then. My brother said, it's a smaller village, don't worry, it's gonna be quiet. And he deliberately didn't want to call me because every 5 seconds there was like a shooting or something. So he was scared. Yeah, and he was texting me, we're fine, it's quiet. Meanwhile, he couldn't sleep. It was like nothing. It was just like literally, or Bucha, they were torturing them. But I learned that later.
He didn't tell you that.
He didn't tell me. He didn't call me. He's like, oh, there's a bad reception, but everything is fine, everything is quiet. Whatever. Meanwhile, it was like literally like next block, because Bucha was just being tortured for months. And then he was able to, so one rabbi, they asked, can we, some people were able gather together because they had unfortunately bad story in Donetsk. So they gathered together and said, women, children, buses, let's go try to get out of the country. Obviously men were not allowed to. So my brother and a few people asked Rabbi, can we lend you a car to go a little bit on east, like Dnieper, because it's more quiet. So they were lucky enough to put a few people, older people who couldn't go or would refuse, it's very hard. So they drove back to Dnieper, which is a little bit better, but still not so. And then I called him and asked, what's your plan? He's like, I don't know, what should I do?
Yeah, why wasn't he coming out?
I mean, there was a law passed from 18 to 65, you're not allowed to leave. And he's like, what should I do? And then we remember as a child, he was 16, he was able to have like exam from the army. And some people were able to cross the border with a paper, some people were not. He had it like years when he was 16, so I guess they checked. Obviously my mother like back then didn't want him to serve in order, but that was hard. So also to get into a train, it was very, very hard. Like Ukraine would send a train, but you could imagine how many people are trying to, like, let's say 8 cars and million people will try to get in. Yeah, and luckily someone from Dnieper, my friend's father, he literally took my brother, he just squealed like already train was leaving. He just so basically to describe, like train was meant for 6 people like places. So they were squeezed for 20, 21 for like, between this, almost, in the back, whatever.
They know what that is.
Exactly, like
that
probably.
the story sounds like their story.
Exactly, it looks like they were like, at some station they would stop because there was a bombing, so they traveled for 3 days like that. Well, I don't know how, I didn't even ask how they used the bathroom or eating, nothing. Some people were trying to help with food. My brother eats only kosher, so he was like starving. Then it was already Shabbat. The approach, and he was in charge of Jewish people of Dnieper to take. There was a lot of older, kids, so help them. Some people, they so disoriented, they lost. You have to find whatever. He was helping them, even though he didn't know Lvov. And Lvov, it's not meant to accommodate this amount of people, Also, so somehow they found the right boss, and I think it was 17. I forgot, like a long time trying to go through. And the 2 Jewish men clearly they didn't have a right paper. But you could see like one is literally like they're not able to serve an army. They refused. They turned them go back. A few older, so it was like very, very strict. So my brother and I prayed. I asked everyone to pray. He was able to cross the border in Poland. At that time, it was nothing for Jewish people. The Polish people would serve some food, but my brother couldn't. He called a friend through Ukraine who went through whatever. Someone Polish. People hosting me for take a shower after 4 days of showering. He said he put a baseball hat. He was afraid to identify as a Jew, and he's like, "Thank you very much. I'm not hungry," even though he was dying of hunger, But he said very nice, but he didn't feel it would be a right thing to even identify as a Jew until I was able to buy him. But it was like a miracle with.
I have to.
So where is he
I don't want to
now?
stop
He's in,
you, but I have
by me.
a little bit continuing your story.
Yeah.
Because they took us 6 days in lockdown wagons. 6 days. No food, nothing. And Bobby, Big Bobby, she had the little water because those cattle baggers had a little openings by the window. So she kept on there the little glass, a cup by the window. So luckily it was raining a little bit, but people were starved and thirsty. So she raised her hand, my mother, Bobby, and she said, I have water. There was a little bit water, but we had there 90 people in one bed. 90.
This is my aunt. This is Bobby's sister. They all know Bobby. Also from the same town in Volmazuvarish with Lillian Feintach.
Yes.
And
So, Baruch Hashem, same dragon describes. But my mother in the first gathering.
I know her from home.
Yeah.
Yes. We grew up together. But 6 days, nothing, nobody, no food. But Big Bobby had a little.
I was in the same wagon and we had no
6
food
days,
and there was no place just even to sit in the wagon and we were, the condition in the wagons were just
the wagon, when they stopped middle of the way, we didn't
because
know
they,
where what.
no, but they were bombed, the trucks were bombed.
They were bombed. The Americans bombed day and night.
And they're laughing. They have them in
March 6th.
Это не важно. Видите, спросила женщина, а где был мир? А где мир? Они тоже не знают. Они тоже не знают. Dr. Pip was such an unbelievable.
We should really do a picture.
But we have such a, yeah, we should make a picture. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you. No, but you did share your soul. You felt the beauty of the neshama. You felt the beauty of the neshama. Oh, I hope it will be recorded. We need more. We really needed to hear more. Baruch Hashem. Please.
Let's try to do a picture.
Not if I should do a picture?
Where can we do a picture?
Right here.
Yeah, you're not going to get them then. You're only going to get them when you over here. Yeah.
This is a diploma.
Dr. Faye, over here is better actually.
Why?
If they stand facing the windows, I can go on the other side of the table and get a nice picture.
But they're already walking out.
Okay, fine. So over here is fine.
I know, I'm so sorry. We're going to try to give it to you. Sebastian, I need get Sebastian. Joe, we're going to get it. We're going to do a picture first. Let's do a picture right here. Yeah, we're going to do a picture. Yeah. Look, do you want to get them all for a picture? On the name.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story. Unbelievable.
Alright, everybody's in a group photo over there? Joining for the group Everybody for a photo? Everybody for a photo? Over here facing this way, please.
This is better. This is better.
This one facing me.
That's the fit.
Facing me. Dr. Faye. Dr. Faye, everyone can just stand like this.
Stay right there.
Yeah, it's fine.
Alex, if you want to join, I'll join also.
Yeah.
But first of all, the honor of the survivors. First of all, the honor survivors themselves.
Everybody.
Alex,
Direct people.
Alex, what is
I don't think so. I'm gonna chill here.
Raphael, they should be this way. I know what I'm talking about.
Where?
I know my house. The picture should go in this direction. You're never gonna be able to fit them in that way.
No, it's gonna be a wide shot. I'll do a wide shot. I can do a panoramic shot. I can do a 360 shot.
360, look at
You
that.
want me to do a 360 shot?
We can
Do
do
whatever
all,
you
we
can
can
do
do all
to
of
get a
it.
picture that we can all put on our.
Look at the technology. Please, you come here. No, we want you also. Come. Ladies, you come. Ladies, you need, listen. Rachel, please come. No, we need it. You, definitely. We can be from the other side. Listen, we're gonna come from the other side. We want you to come, please. Please come together, your team. Why? No, it's gonna be panoramic. And you also. No, but listen, just take it. You can take, but then you go.
Raphael's taking it.
I'm awesome. What do you mean you're taking?
No, but
First, let me take one, then you can take one.
First of all, join. He'll take with you. And then you'll take,
Right here.
She'll want me to picture. And her mother, Gretchen Reisman.
I'm gonna stand right here. Guys, don't move, just smile.
She's not coming? My Cabrusa?
Oh, wow.
Guys, don't move, just smile.
Big smile. Why isn't she coming in the picture?
She didn't want to.
No?
Oh, wow.
Good.
One more time, in case somebody blinks.
One minute, Rebbitzin Reisman. Oh, they're coming. You see when a Cabrusa asks you to come. It's like being a married couple. Get
so
over
we're gonna be a circle.
Exactly. We're together every morning at 7:30, every single morning. Since Shlomo passed away. Now we're doing Mitzvah Yahoo, but Rebbitzin Reisman is coming here. My partner.
Should we stand literally anywhere?
Like my marriage.
He's gonna get all of us. No. He's going around.
No, you're fine.
Okay. I think that makes people go that way, right?
We do a song. Why is your mother gonna get you? My mother.
Let's do that. Please. Yeah, right here. Right here.
There's space right here. There's space right here.
Yes, okay,
let's go.
Okay, let's try again. Are we good?
Alright, everybody look in the center for a second. I'm gonna take a quick picture with a 360. 1 second.
It's gonna look like a regular picture once we have it, like it'll be across.
It'll be
I can put it on my
360.
profile? It's
This
a
one's
surprise.
not. This one's gonna be on your phone.
It's a surprise.
All right.
Wait, will it fit into like a square for Instagram?
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what, just take it, because I think some ladies.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
Rabbi, come make a circle.
Okay, and you also. Okay, very good. You're part of it.
All right. Everyone look in the center and smile.
Cheese. Good?
Yeah, we heard the sound.
How long did he say like
Very
this?
good.
It's floating. It's a very high quality picture. Alright, good.
We done?
Wait, no, wait, one more with the panorama. One panorama with everybody.
This is very.
I'm gonna send it to Dr. Facial, send it to everybody. Alright.
It's gonna be hanging
Where we
on
starting
the
from?
wall.
Who wants to be in the middle? Okay, one in the middle.
Yeah, we'll send it to the group.
Technology is what's going to create Technology gives you creators a chance to live.
You guys ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
Starting with this side, smile. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much.
Oh, wait, one more time. Oh, wait, continue, you got cut off.
We need a little more.
This is not big enough.
Okay.
One more time, sorry.
One more.
One more time, just gotta try to get closer. You guys gotta get a little closer.
I'm leaving in 5 minutes.
Okay, we're good. One
You
more.
guys gotta come a little closer.
Come a little closer.
Alright.
I gotta be squeezing.
Alright.
Flip it.
3, 2, 1. Look over here, please, smile.
Don't forget us.
Oh, Rabbi, you didn't get in.
So listen.
Wait, let me try this one. Let me try it
You're
sideways.
trying the long way and that's
Let
it.
me try it sideways.
Then we gotta squeeze in more.
One more, one last one.
Everyone should come together.
This is running out of,
That's it.
yeah, running out of
So we need to move faster, no?
I move too fast, it's gonna become a blur.
Why?
No.
Got you, Rabbi.
Okay.
Thank you. Wow, look at you. Look at you. Look at what you did. Wow. What a picture.
Yeah, but it's blurry because I went too fast.
I'm sorry.
Nice, so
Yeah,
nice.
but this is good enough.
It's there for years.
Very nice.
You just have to go to
Pleasure seeing you. Thank you so much for joining us. You're so inspirational. All the best people in the city.
Thanks for making come out like for us.
I would definitely come for this.
That sounds really good.
Not everybody
No, you have to watch it.
Amazing. That's really divine.
It's rare.
Okay, so we'll talk about tomorrow or no? Oh, Rebecca, I don't know, you're not gonna be tomorrow by, no, you have other things to do. Manhattan Beach, I don't know. Because Barhill, you can come?
Yeah, already asked.
No.
I could have sent it at a different place.
The most important, even if one Steve will come to put it on Facebook or whatever, on YouTube.
I'm gonna put it on YouTube, I'll send you the link, you put it on Facebook.
Right, you can send it to Rebecca.
I send it to everybody. I send it to everybody.
Thank you so much for your flyer. It was a crucial flyer. You cannot even imagine how important it is. I was sitting here and I was This event was a crucial event.
Thank you so much. Did you eat? Can you eat?